Hello, I'm Joshua Haza, and this is my final project for school law. First I'm going to talk about is attendance. So students have the legal requirement to be at school from age 8 to 18 on every day schools in session. So I think that's in Washington State, that's a pretty simple and straightforward way of saying it. Parents are required to make sure that their kids are in school regularly. Failure to do so can result in referral to Community Engagement Board or court for failing to have kids at school. And school employees have the responsibility of maintaining accurate records for attendance, which can be a real struggle at schools. Teachers are busy and they want to be doing the business of education and not checking boxes for attendance. I know I've struggled with this in the past as well. And I've appreciated our school has continually tried new techniques for getting attendance more accurate. And I've appreciated that. I know my attendance records are much more accurate than they have in the past. We have a new system where you get emailed every period if you didn't have your attendance put in, which is a really nice reminder email for me. And then the schools are also, I didn't realize this when I first did the research, we're required to notify parents of truancies. I know we did that, but I didn't know that we were required to. And then this is one of the ways I think Washington State is really thoughtfully trying to solve this problem, is that instead of being all punitive, schools are required to work with families to improve truancies and try different strategies. So it can't be a hands-off approach to schools of, hey, this is your problem, figure it out. It's a, hey, what can we do together to see if we can't get your child here in school more often? I do know it's incredibly important. Although I think the importance of attendance is becoming less and less, and I think our families might be recognizing that as we've moved more and more of our resources online. Students are able to be more successful with more absences. I've never had so many kids with so many absences still be able to get pretty good grades, B's and A's in my classes as I've had this last year. I've been surprised by that. I have some kids who have 30 plus absences this year and are getting B pluses and A's in my class because they do the work and most things are online for them. So it's a new thing for me. Next one is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA. This provided parents with the right to control much of their students' personally identifiable information. They have right to access that information, so we can't have hidden files on kids. And they have access to request amendments and corrections to the records. So all of that was part of FERPA. And students inherit those rights when they turn 18, so they can have those rights for educational institutions like college. Employees have access to personally identifiable information only when with a legitimate educational interest. So we don't allow broad access to student information. We allow it to those people who need that information, and that's a requirement for employees. And we should protect students' personal identifiable information, including grades and other characteristics of that student. So, talking with colleagues at lunch, at a restaurant, about a student can cause all sorts of problems if people nearby can hear you. So as a matter of course of action, we don't do that kind of thing. So I think that's a result of FERPA and a healthy thing. We also are required to maintain fair and accurate student records. So having ways of assessing student progress and monitoring them need to be fair and accurate and free of as much bias as possible. Students with special needs, so all students have a right to learn and have a high quality free public education, including those with disabilities. Parents participate in the IEP 504 process and make sure that you are representing your kids' needs and pushing back when you need to on school officials. I think that's a huge part of a parent's role here. Employees must adhere to the requirements of an IEP in 504. So if there are educational requirements there, things you should be doing, you have to be doing those things. They're non-optional. And you must participate in the development of the IEPs and 504s, so IEP meetings after school, as well as evaluation forms you'll get from school psychs and other areas. Those need to be done and done thoughtfully to help the student the best we can. Okay. Student discipline. Students have the right to learn in a HIB-free environment, so harassment, intimidation, and bullying. They have the right to not be exposed to that or be a victim of that. They need to be treated fairly with due process. So when students do make mistakes, which they will because they're kids, they have the right to be treated fairly. Show up to school on time and ready to learn. So that's the responsibility of students. Be here, be on time, be here every day, be ready to learn, ready to go. Parents have the right to receive notification of discipline, and I think they also have the responsibility to help facilitate a healthy relationship between their student and the school, be it teachers or administrators or other students. Employees should be clearly communicating expectations with students and parents, fairly and consistently enforcing the policies of the school, and they should be building relationship with families so that when things do from time to time go sideways or get complicated, they have a relationship to build on with families to help alleviate and make that work. In the end, everyone wants kids to learn, and from my experiences, when kids aren't learning, there's usually a really good reason. I have very rarely, if I've met a lazy kid in my life, usually there's something standing in their way, and if you can help find that thing and help build over that barrier, that you'd be doing a huge service to that kid. I know when I was in high school, some teachers did that for me and helped me be able to be successful. So I know I'm always looking for that opportunity with my students. Student free speech rights. I think the short end of this is that students have free speech rights, and they're generally protected in schools. They cannot be lewd or offensive, although offensive and lewd, I think those terms are tricky because I don't know that swear words are the big deal they used to be. But when that falls apart is that when students interfere with the educational process. So when if they stand up in class and start shouting slogans or something, then that kind of thing can be an educational interference. So some parents here can be involved and make sure their kids understand what is an appropriate use of demonstration, of exercising those free speech rights, and what kind of things aren't in bounds. Employees, I think teachers here have a really important role. We can provide a forum for educational relevant free speech. So we should not be trying to be the dictators of ideas, but rather a place for kids to practice those ideas and to think about ideas in terms of evidence and facts so they can make educated decisions about the kinds of ideas that they want to have long term in their lives. We can also teach students how to disagree respectfully. I think there are lots and lots of issues where two people can have very different ideas and still be inside a reasonable realm of society. And we can disagree respectfully and move forward together. And teach students how to challenge ideas and not challenge the people behind the idea. So be able to push back on someone's idea without making it a personal attack on them. And then provide lots of opportunities for students to engage with each other and practice these kind of skills of how do I push back on an idea without making the other person feeling attacked. Collective bargaining here. So students are not part of the bargaining unit. I've been part of a lot of bargaining units, and I don't like that idea. I know I've had some pushback when I bring up students in bargaining conversations. But they do benefit indirectly, although there are times when the bargaining unit will be pushing for something that may not be in the best interest of kids, but might be in the best interest of teachers, especially in terms of compensation and monetary policy. When teachers get paid more, money comes from somewhere typically, and that might actually reduce some student programming. Parent rights. So parents again aren't part of the bargaining unit. Employees here. Employee have the right to decide certain parameters, and it's a pretty open process. As long as there isn't a law stating that some right or responsibility exists in one unit, the bargaining teams can come together and make decisions about it. We have pretty flexible parameters for what we can do with bargaining rights. One of the things I think that a lot of people don't understand, especially teachers, is that both sides must agree to put something in or take something out of a contract. It cannot be unilateral. So I hear teachers say, oh, well, they're going to take this from us if we're not careful. And I try to remind them that, just a second. Sorry about that. I try to remind them that we can only lose something if we agree to lose it. And then the other big thing that employees need to be doing is make sure you're clearly communicating your needs to your bargaining unit so that they can actually represent you at the table. Oftentimes, if people are like, this part of my job isn't working for me, those are things that we can oftentimes problem solve without having to have even language in the contract a lot of the times, and kind of solve things that way. Well, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.